Ready? All my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. I said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. God is for me, He's not against me, and I will hold to the plans He has for me. When I'm broken, He will fix me, and I will call on the name of the Lord. I said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. He's my heart song, in my sorrow. He's my hope and my strength for tomorrow. When the storms rise all around me, and I will call on the name of the Lord. Here we go. I said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. I said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. And I got the joy, joy, joy deep in my soul. And I will sing, sing, sing wherever I go. I said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. I said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go.
Father, as we're just kind of even wrapping up this series, that you would just, God, there's still things you're wanting to say, and you're still wanting to grow in me and in us. And I'm excited for the series you've brought us through and how you've used that to develop me and how you've used that to develop and grow our church to know and to move deeper into the gifts of the Spirit and our connection with the Holy Spirit. And Father, even this morning, just continue to open our hearts to you, to the things you're wanting to say to us individually and corporately, and that we would have the courage to boldly move in the direction that you call us to. Amen. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And we've been talking about the fruits of the Spirit for several months, but today we're going to hit the last fruit of the Spirit that manifests itself as self-control. And there was the man, Sampson, as we just saw the video, and really his life is a very tragic life. He was a man who lacked self-control. And that's kind of the bottom line of his life. That's what defined him, was his inability to be able to control himself. And because of his lack of self-control, he lost everything, because he was a walking impulse control disorder who had to have what he wanted, when he wanted it, how he wanted it, and the result of his desire and all of that We could think, well, that's actually a really good thing. He had desires, he had passions, and he went after them with everything that he had. And we could even go, well, those are honorable things, and they're desirable traits, and very reasonable. And, if you can grab what you want to grab for yourself, good for you. Go for it, get it, grab it, hold on to it, take it. We can go, yeah, that's a great thing. That's an awesome thing. Or maybe it's not always. And the problem is it's not really a simple thing. It wasn't really for a lack of ability that Samson lost everything, including his life. It was just a lack of self-control. The Greeks talked about 3 areas in the life of a person that historically they spoke of critically as to bringing the downfall, 3 areas of self-control that were very critical that you needed to pay attention to because they could destroy your life. One was your sexuality. Another was gluttony, which is not so much your appetite of food, but your appetite of desire, that I need to always be consuming, taking things in. And gluttony is that's what gluttony means, is I can't stop grabbing, hoarding, taking, filling. And the third area that the Greeks talked about as a strong issue of desire that can bring you down, of self-control, is your speech, where you can't control the things that you're saying that come out of your mouth. There's an author in the Bible that said similar things. His name was James, and he talked a lot about the tongue, how it is a restless evil. It's full of deadly poison, and that it is a fire. And if you can't control the things that are coming out of your mouth, if you can't stop that when you say things maybe even that you don't always mean, and you've all done this because I've done this, and we start to spread things maybe that we shouldn't be spreading, and it came out of my mouth. I don't know how it came out, it just jumped out. And then things spread like a wildfire, and sometimes it's because we're passive aggressive and maybe we've got a little criticism, but we don't want to be directly about it. We just want to spread something or say something because it felt so good, a little morsel or a little piece of gossip that I know something that other people don't know. And if I just say that one thing, and maybe if I want to get away with it, I know I'll do it in a prayer request. We really need to be praying for so-and-so because they've got this problem. It looks so good. I know something they don't know, but it's all under Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, that we're going to pray for them and lift up their failing marriage, or that they did this, or that person struggles with that. But it's because I love them so much, I'm going to spread this little bit of wildfire. And it is a fire, James says. He says in chapter 3, verse 5, he says, how great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire, and the tongue is a fire by such a small word. Just a small little thing, the fire grows. For lack of self-control. You just couldn't not say it. And you've been there, because I've been there. And you could not share it. It was just such a small thing, just a small piece of information that someone else doesn't know that I know, revealing someone else's problem or someone else's faults, or a piece of information that makes you look like you're in the know a little bit better, that you have more information. It makes you look a little bit more powerful, a little bit better than others. We want freedom, though. The freedom to do what we feel, to say what we want to say, freedom of speech, to do what you want, to live how you want, fan the flame of your impulses. So if you see something you like, then go for it. Go buy it, go get it. And if you see something you want to eat, go get it, go eat it. Charge it if you want to buy it. Get immediately what it is you want when you want it, because you have to have it, because you deserve it. You've earned it. You wanted it, if nothing else. And if you have to have it now, then you just do it right now, and that's okay. For lack of self-control, some of us have or are in dangerous debt. And if you're not in debt, we all know that we can say we've all got more than we ever need, more than we will ever use. And self-control, what it is at the core is, self-control is the power to rule. I like that. Breathe that in. Self-control, the power to rule. The power to rule myself is self-control, which means that it's not my impulses, it's not my urges, it's not my feelings in the moment that determine or control what it is that I say or what I do, where I go, what I buy, what I acquire, how I live. It's that I get to control that. I control those things, self-control. It is the power to rule yourself, and that is a fruit of the Spirit. Now, there's power to rule, and it is marked by this interior kind of strength, this power to rule. Somehow, it's got to come from inside of me, an internal kind of strength that brings with it a freedom. Because then I'm not a slave or controlled by anything or anyone else around me. There's something inside of me that gets to determine my life. Even my impulses, they don't get to decide what it is that I do. It's not my urges or my feelings in the moment. I control myself, the power to rule myself. And I really like that. Because then I'm not a slave to my immediate desires or my emotions as they flare up. But it's a different kind of freedom than we usually think of. See, what most of us have been formed by, most of us have been formed by something else. The culture around us says what freedom is, and how I've been taught what freedom is that I get to do all of the things that I feel when I want and how I want them. That is what freedom I've been taught is, says the world around me. And many of us, if not all of us, are completely shaped by that. Many of us have bought into that. Many of us have found freedom from that. The world around me tells me that freedom is letting my hormones be my guide, to be paying attention to my impulses and to give in to them whatever my impulses might be, and that they're actually good. That's what's going to drive and make your life better. Sexual, relational or emotional, ethical, verbal, financial, you do it, buy it now, get it now, acquire it now, own it now, because you deserve it, because you are the most important person. You don't need to control yourself, because you're free to say no to do what you want. But that's not freedom. That's actually a form of slavery. The inability to say no, or to even kind of wait, even to yourself, to tell yourself that to wait, to give in to any of your desires even is not freedom. It's actually a form of slavery. So I'm not even yet talking about a biblical principle here, though there are biblical principles. Right now, I'm just talking truth, just basic truth. And people who have even a little bit of wisdom know this. Epictetus, a Greek philosopher, said, "No person is free who cannot master himself." A person who can't say no to himself. That's why fasting is such a powerful and important, helpful discipline that many people have in their life. It is a profound spiritual application. It has incredible implications. But there's a lot of reasons why people should fast, and why the Bible has talked about fasting. And as it relates to this, though, what we're talking about, self-control, fasting from time to time, what it helps you to do is regain your no, to get your no back to whatever it is you're fasting from. So maybe you're trying to fast, maybe not just from food, maybe it's certain kinds of food where maybe you're saying, I need to say no to, fast food, or no to chocolate, or no to something, and you're starting, as you're doing it, to learn the power. I really want that thing, and I'm trying to learn to say no to the thing, the certain thing, and you start to learn that when you have the power to say no, it starts to let go of control over you, whether it's shopping all the time, or talking all the time. There's other things, many things that you can fast from. It does not have to just be a food. No one is free who cannot master himself and say no to himself. And sometimes it's just to say no to yourself. Sometimes it's important to do it. And some of you might even need to make a plan of what you could say no to today, just so that you can get your no back. So that you don't live out of control. So that you don't live out of your impulses. Paul said it this way, and I love I love the philosophers, but I like Paul a lot more. In 1 Corinthians 6:12, he says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. Just because I can do it doesn't mean that it's a good thing for me to do it. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by anything. 1 Corinthians 9:27 says, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to myself, I myself should be disqualified. I discipline my body. My body doesn't tell me what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to go, what I'm supposed to say. I tell my body what it is that I'm going to do, because I am not here to serve my body. My body has been designed to serve me. And one of the things that I think that helped Paul to do this, because he understood, was that this body is temporary. It's different than his soul, which is eternal. This temporary body, there's just no way I'm going to let my physical body have authority of who I am eternally and spiritually. There's no way I'm going to let that control that. I'm going to go the other direction, says Paul. Here's what I'm going to do, because he's got these alarms going off. At 6 a.m, he wakes up, whoa, and he's like, man, I just want to go back to sleep. I just really don't want to get up. Just give me another 15 minutes. I just want to hit the snooze bar. But I have to tell my body, no, you don't tell me to go back to sleep. I'm going to tell you, we're going to get up. We got things to do. I'm not going to allow you to do that. Self-control is the power to rule myself by means of the Spirit, because it is one of the fruits of the Spirit. So as I kind of sat with this, I started to get some questions that came out of this. Like, how does self-control, this ability to control and rule myself, how does this even work? And where does it come from? Can self-control, specifically the kind that Paul is talking about and describing, can it become too rigid? Can it become stiff? Can it become legalistic, where I'm putting just a rule on myself and I get so focused on the rule that I forget what it's supposed to be growing in me? Do I start putting rules on other people? Can it make me actually dead and lifeless inside? And I'm like, yeah, it actually can. All of those things. Like all of the fruits of the Spirit, I can become legalistic. And self-control can even be counterfeit. So I could look like I have the fruit of the Spirit of self-control, but I don't. But you don't know that because you don't see what's really going on. And the easiest way to see the counterfeit, if you see someone else or even yourself, where they've got all sorts of self-control, where they're very rigid, they're like a drill sergeant, they're militant, they've got it down, they're self-controlled. You're like, man, I can't live like that. I don't know how they do it. But if they have absolutely no love or joy or peace or patience towards themselves or towards you or to other people, there's absolutely no mystery here. It is not the real deal. It's not something that has been grown from the Spirit of God, because all of the fruits, all of them that we've talked about, you don't just grow one fruit and then maybe next year I'll try and grow a different one. I'm going to grow faithfulness today, and then maybe next year I'll work on joy. I'm going to save patience and for later, because that's too hard. Self-control. You don't just grow one fruit. All of the fruits grow together, and that is the beauty of the whole thing. They all grow together. So if you see someone who has a lot of self-control, but they're just not nice people, they're just not full of love or joy or peace, it's not the real deal, and it's not actually what I'm talking about today. So what is the difference between self-control and the Spirit of God control? Is it self-control or spirit control? Like, how do I start to even see the difference between them? Well, there's three things that I think have been essential for us to enter into an experience if we want Spirit-born, from God, self-control, which is the ability for us to rule ourselves by the power of the Spirit of God. First thing is, I think we need some passion. And then we need practice. And the third thing is, we're going to need partnership. And we're only going to hit the first one really today. Then we're going to wrap the series up next week, and we're going to finish this off. But today we're just going to start with one. We're going to talk about passion, because that is where everything begins, right there. passion, and desire, which are two words I absolutely love. What you believe about life, the things that have value and worth to you. The important and critical question that would come up out of this is, especially as we're talking about self-control, is what is it you really desire? And that is such a great question that you could journal on any day of the week, because they could even change. But it's a question you need to ask yourself. What is it I really love? What is it that motivates me? What is it that drives me? And every one of us should spend time at some point. You should know what that is. You should know what motivates you and what moves you and what excites you. What are the things that you really want as you move forward? You know, in the next week, in today, in the next month, next year. What do you really want? And what do you love? And what do you believe about life? And where it is that life can be found, because they all tie together. There's a self-discipline that comes from self-control that every one of us, every single one of us, in some area of our life, we all have self-control. Every single person. And at some level, for a variety of reasons. And you can trace your discipline or the discipline of others by their willingness to sacrifice what it is that they really want. Something that they love or believe that has value and worth. So right now in my family, we are not going to Disneyland this summer, much to the anger of a couple of my kids, because every other family seems to be going to Disneyland, but not our family. But it's because there are other things that our family, we really love more. We like to drive vans that don't break down and crash and suddenly explode in fireballs on the side of the freeway. So what we do is we take them to the dealership and let them work on them and fix them. We take them into the shop. We drove two vans on Friday to Longview. We dropped one off at the dealership because the alignment, like the tires were like wonky. And we're like, oh, this whole van is going weird. And they're all rubbing weird. The tires are going bald in different areas. And so we get in there and they're like, holy cow, this is like one of the worst. You must have hit like 18 potholes and driven, taken some jumps and driven off road. We're like, no, we just live on a gravel road. We live in Cathlamet. They're like, we don't know why, but your tires are just all kinds of messed up. So we drop that van off. We all get in the other van and we're driving down to Hillsboro to see my mom. She's doing better, thank you. We have to talk about retirement facilities for her, which is really a hard conversation and sad, but we're at that point in life, but she's doing better physically, so there's my update on my mom. Poof. Still hard emotional things to wrestle through, but we're working through that. All the while we're driving to Hillsboro and back, this other van that we're driving, man, there's like, we're hearing things pop and break and shift in the engine, right in the motor. The steering column is going, I'm like, what is this? We're going to die just trying to get to Hillsboro and back. What's going on with this van? We just dropped one van off, now we got another van. No, it's like, well, I don't know what we do other than we just keep driving and hope something doesn't shoot out the hood. And so we make it to Hillsboro, we're driving back, and we get to the first dealer, and we're, all right, let's pick up the now fixed van, thank you for the $800, and now let's take, because they also needed new tires, because all these bald spots, and so thank you. And then we get in the other van and we take it and drop the second van off, which is about to shoot a rod right out of the hood, and we drop it off, and they're like, oh, thank you. But the thing is we spent $10,000 the last year on that stupid van. And now they don't know the price, but my estimate is $3,000, because that seems to be the running. It's about $3,000 every time we take that dumb van in. But then you're like, but it's praise God because someone gave us that van. Well, thank you for that gift. Thank you. Give me another one. Thank you. Anyhow, all that to say is, our family, we really value living. We value driving on the road. We value our lives. We have a limited amount of resources, and so you start to pick and choose based on your value system how you're going to use what resources and what you do have in your life. You choose them based on what is important to you. Right now, we decided our what is important to us is the safety of our family. Don't break down. We don't want to be left stranded. We don't want death. We're not after dismemberment. We don't want flaming balls of fire. Those are all just kind of priorities. My passion is to live and to not have to change a tire. Higher priority than Disneyland. So, as a result of that, we are very disciplined. We have self-control of our finances in that area. Self-control and discipline and the willingness to sacrifice, it all starts with what it is you're passionate about. It all starts with a desire. World-class athletes and musicians and intellects, students, they're really good at what it is that they do. In addition to be just having an amazing gifting to, for whatever it is that they do, and a capability, whatever field that they are in, they also exercise enormous amounts of self-discipline and self-control in that area that they have a passion in. Athletes train, and kids know this. If you're going to be successful as an athlete, you have to train. You have to do it behind the scenes before you're ever going to do it on the court or in the field. In the 1980s, there was an American track and field athlete. I'm sure some of you are too young. Carl Lewis. He dominated the track and field events, like the long sprinting and the long jump. I mean, he just dominated. And he followed this rigorous training program that included speed drills and weightlifting and long jump kind of specific exercises. I was on a track team in the early 80s because I was about 14 when the 84 Olympics came around, and he was just dominating. And I was on a track team, and so he was kind of like my idol. I want to be Carl Lewis, and I want to run right like him. I want to be able to jump like him. I wanted to be like him. And Carl Lewis was known for his really rigorous, powerful exercise drills that trained his body so that he could push his body harder, faster, longer. And I wanted to be him. I wanted to win races. I wanted to set records. I wanted to jump farther than any other kid. And many of the people on my team, we all kind of idolized him. And we wanted to run the miles and miles that it would take, and we wanted to do the sprints, but not all of us could. Because the workouts would last for hours. And as a 14-year-old, after a while, come on. Every day. And over time, I learned that wasn't my greatest passion. I did learn that volleyball was my greatest sports passion. I joined a men's volleyball team, and that became my passion, and I could not exercise enough for that. And I would train at practice, I would train outside of practice, and that changed me when I found a sport that I was passionate about. And anyone who is good at what they do, whether it's music, they've done it for years. So that when they get up on the stage and when they play the music, they make it look easy. It's just, how do you do that? You're so good at it. Students have said no to many things. And not that they're even bad things, but they're just saying no to a lot of things so that they can take the time to study and learn the things that they need to learn, because their desires is for more knowledge, more information. They say no to things in their free time, or no to things in a social life. Needing to eat ramen every day if they're in college, they may suffer a loss as a student so that they can gain what it is that they desire most, a degree that ideally will open up the direction that they're wanting to go with their life, to do the things that they want to move towards. And all of it comes out of desire, out of a heart and a passion and an excitement for something, all of it. Some people sacrifice incredible things like their marriage to get the things that maybe they think is more important. Paul in 1 Corinthians 9:25 says, every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. Every athlete exercises self-control. Everyone says no to something. Everyone. Athletes say no to comfort and ease so that they can win this perishable wreath. And they say no to certain kinds of foods and drinks. They say no to a certain kind of lifestyle so that they can get what it is that they want more than comfort and ease. And they actually develop a different kind of life than people who don't care about running so that they can get a physical prize, a trophy, a crown, the praise and adoration of other people, because that's what they care about. It's what they value. It's what they desire. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with self-discipline. And sometimes it's easier to understand a spiritual self-discipline when we start to understand it in a physical arena. Understanding that we can discipline ourselves. You and I can discipline ourselves so that we can have something better. It's just that, says Paul. It's just that. What I care about is not a perishable wreath. It's something that is imperishable. And when he says that line right there, he's starting to let us in on something that he has the highest value and desire for. We're starting to read his journal here, which reveals to us why Paul would exercise self-control in all things. It reveals to us why he would discipline his body and make it his slave. Where I'm telling you, you're not telling me what we're going to do. Because what he cared about was something eternal, something that was imperishable. He was living for an entirely different kind of prize. He was living a much bigger story than maybe the 50, 60 years that was common age at that time. He's like, I'm living for something even far bigger than that lifespan, that time span. And that 50 to 60 years, it really matters. I don't want to diminish that. I'm not saying that. It does matter. But I'm just not going to live this life as if that is the most important thing. I'm not expecting to get out of this life everything that life has to offer. I'm going to have to say no to certain things in this life because I have a much bigger goal in mind. 2 Corinthians 4:17, for this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. Whether it's an imperishable wreath or an eternal weight of glory, whatever you want to call it, that's what I want more than a perishable wreath. More than anything that I want here, because I'm intensely aware that I am not a human being having a spiritual experience. I am a spiritual being at my core. That is who I am. And I am having an eternal destiny with a temporary human existence. I am having an eternal destiny with a temporary human experience. And this temporary human experience is a light affliction that is producing an eternal weight of glory. Does that make sense? And that is why I discipline my body and make it my slave. I tell it what to do. It's not going to tell me what to do because what I care about is eternal and imperishable. And I don't want to miss out on that kind of a life. I don't want to be disqualified. And I don't want to be disqualified for doing something stupid like an athlete who didn't care enough about the game to train. Didn't you care about the game? Well, because I just see you sitting on the couch all summer, and you're just eating Twinkies and donuts. Didn't you realize that this human life is long? But you just got to live for a bigger story. Why are you sitting there all summer if it really mattered to you, training your body? Many people give their hearts to Jesus. They decide to follow Jesus and follow him, and they call themselves Christians. And many times, what many Christians do is they just go back to sleep. I hit the snooze bar, and I just fall back asleep to the fact that maybe there's something bigger going on in this life. But so many people don't wake up until they face death, and they have this awakening at the last second. And yes, they're going to heaven. I'm not saying they're not. But in terms of destiny and fulfillment in the flow of God's kingdom, what a waste. 1 Corinthians 9:27, but I discipline my body to keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. And disqualified, that is such a harsh word, where it's like, you're out of here. What is it, what he means disqualified? Is he talking I'm disqualified from heaven here? Paul is not worried about that. It's never been the worry of Paul. That's not even on his radar when he says this. What Paul cared about was being able to run the race, to have the faith his whole life long, not to be rendered useless, because he believed that how you and I and we run the race how we do it is going to have an eternal effect, not only on ourselves, but it's going to have an effect on other people as well. Which is why Paul said to Timothy, his spiritual son, he said in 1 Timothy 4:7, he said, train yourself for godliness. For while bodily training is of some value, and it does have value, but it is only temporary, you're not always going to be in shape. And one day you're going to die. For while bodily training is of some value, Timothy, you've got to believe me on this one. Godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. But for you to live this way, you're going to need to have a bigger picture. You're going to have to care about something other than how you feel right now and what it is that you want right now or what you think you have to have right now. And to be disqualified is to be, rendered useless. So now we're back to Sampson. And I'm sure Paul knew Sampson. I mean, he knew the story, I should say. They didn't live the same timeline. But Paul grew up in Torah. He grew up learning Torah in Torah school, and he'd hear the stories, and he'd be breathing them in and learning them and hearing the teachings from the rabbis, and he knew the law, he knew the prophets. And one of the stories that he knew, he knew it inside and out. He was raised on it. He would hear the story of Sampson, and it would have formed his story. This 12-year-old boy, Paul, hearing the story about a boy named Sampson who had it all, and his name was Saul. Saul had his name changed to Paul. So if you're like, caught you, Kenny, you blew it. All right, I know his name was Saul as a kid, but then anyhow, his name was, now we're just talking about Paul, but his name was Saul. So Paul, I'm going to drink coffee. Let you catch up with me. Saul, same guy. As he's a boy, he's 12 years old, learning Torah, memorizing it, learning it, pouring it. He's learning about Sampson, who is kind of the spiritual equivalent of kind of the world-class Olympic athlete. He was gifted and called and anointed by God and empowered to do incredible things. He had everything that he needed spiritually to lead a life of godliness. 2 Peter 1:3. His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness. But Samson didn't care about any of that. He didn't treasure it. He didn't develop it. He didn't do anything to protect it. He didn't grow in it. And because it wasn't a priority, because it wasn't important, he just wasted it. And ultimately, he lost it. And he didn't lose his salvation. We're not talking about that heaven, hell. God loved Samson until the day that Samson died. God loved him. But what he lost was his effectiveness. He lost his usefulness. He failed to step into the fullness of his destiny. And yes, we can miss that. And he lost it primarily because he didn't care. So Kenny, are you telling me that God won't use me because I don't have self-control? It's amazing. God will use any of us. It's amazing how God will use us in spite of us. God will use you no matter what. And that's different than stepping into the fullness of your destiny. One of the many things and reasons why maybe God created you and wants you to do in the kingdom of God, because in the Old Testament, God used an ass to speak to one of his prophets. So if God can do that, he can do anything. And he can use anyone, including me. But it's not about whether you're going to heaven. It's about whether or not God can use you in some way. Can you let God use you and grow you to become the best version of you, to impact not just have an intimacy with God, which right there is enough reason, but to be able to do incredible things and help other people know God and to find healing and restoration and transformation. It's just so much bigger is what we're talking about. And I live in this, and sometimes I don't live in this. There are times I'm totally aware of kind of the eternal reality, and the other times I am completely blind to it, and so are you. I'm sure that I'm not the only one. Paul wrote a letter to Timothy and said, that there are these different bowls like pottery, some made out of wood or pottery of clay. Some of them are made for honor. Many are used for ceremonial use, so we're going to keep them very clean. And others, it says, are made for dishonor, which what he's referring to is kind of ones that they could be cleaned up and used for other things. The bowls that, what they're made though for is, when it says they're made for dishonor, means it's like made for the bathroom. Well, I don't want to go outside and use the outhouse, so I'll go use my little bedpan. That's what it means, dishonor, and that's what he's referring to. It can be sanitized, it can be cleaned up. The bowls that are made to carry, after you've cleaned, anyhow. Timothy, I'm just talking to you like a father to a son. You need to live for something bigger. And then Paul talks about how do we clean up this pottery? How do we clean it up so that it can be used for whatever it is that the master wants to use? Because God can use anyone. Self-control and self-discipline are things that every single one of us, we have to deal with. And we all enter into it and experience it at some level. And you can trace all of it back to a sacrifice. Back to something that you want, something that you desire, that you believe has worth and value, and because of that, you're willing to let go or sacrifice or give up something else. So the question I've been asking myself, and I get to ask you, is what is it that you love? What is it you desire? What is it that you really want? What are you going after? Because we have so many kinds of resources. It's not just finances. It's our time. It's our heart. Like if you want to be, there's certain jobs that you have to put the time in and go to a university, and you need to go get a graduate degree, and sometimes you need a higher degree. And sometimes it's not. I am not a smart man. I'm not that. I'm not a brilliant man. How's that? I'll just say that. But I fully feel like I went and got a master's degree. And I was like, I didn't know I could do that because I didn't think I was that smart. And I learned you put the time in, and I put a lot of time in, and I had to study. And I would have friends that would be, we had a test the next, like on a Monday morning, there's a test. And my friends, they would never study until Sunday night. And they're like, I studied for like an hour. And then they ace it. And I'm like, whew, I'm sweating the entire weekend. I didn't go out Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. I'm studying. I'm doing the research. I'm like, I got a C. Yahoo! I'm like, it's just not coming as naturally to me as it did to others. But if you put the time in, because it was of such desire that I put the work in, I sacrificed because I wanted something more. I really wanted to know that information. And for whatever reason, it just seemed to take me longer. And I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me that maybe it takes me longer. Because I still go after, you go after, we go after the things that are of worth and of value to us. So what is it that you love? What is it that you desire? Because we have different kinds of resources. And how you spend it and what you let go of. Paul told this group of people in the Philippians, and he told them in chapter 3, he said, you know what my passion is that I would make Christ known in his resurrection. To know his suffering, because I would suffer everything if it was for nothing else than a deeper level of intimacy with God through Jesus Christ. I'd sacrifice everything just for that. So what do you want? But before we can talk about anything else, we have to talk about passion. Because every form of self-control, before we can go any further in this topic, it is all going to start with desire. And I can't make anyone in this room want anything that you don't want. When I was a college pastor, I had this mom come up to me, and she had a son who was in my college group, and she was so concerned about her son, about how he was making some bad choices, and so she came to me, and she wanted to talk about him, and said, Kenny, can you make so-and-so... Can you just make them stand up for what it is they really believe in? And because I think if they just stand up, they just need to walk in it. I just help them to do what it is they really believe. And I just looked at her and I just said, well, he is. He is doing exactly what he believes. He's standing up for the things that he does believe in. And you can't make him care about things that he doesn't care about. And I said, I'll pray with you and I'll comfort you, and I'm so sorry. And there's some things maybe I could try, and I could try and encourage him, and I could try and spend some time, and I'll call him up, take him out for lunch. I said, but I can't make him care about anything more than what he's already showing that he really cares about. You can't make anyone care about anything. Like a coach can't make a player give his all and do it. They may have the tools and the skills and the techniques that they could show, and a player may have all of the giftings. They may have everything it needs. They need to be a rock star, but if they just don't care, that talent doesn't matter. But if you do care, I have some really good news. Because you can do this. You can run the race. All it takes is some practice and some partnership and some learning of what it means to partner with the Spirit of God. But that we're going to talk more about next week. Your homework assignment, write down 3 things that you're passionate about, that matter the most to you, that take your resources, whether it's your time or your finances. When my wife and I got married, we're like, all right, where does our time and money go? And we had 3 things. We want to buy more books, we want to make art and buy art, and we want to travel. We want to have our hearts and minds open to new ways of thinking and to new cultures, and we want to explore. And so all of our resources went to that until we decided we wanted kids. And we're like, how can we afford it? Until we sat down and we're like, well, I would sacrifice books and travel and art for kids. And suddenly, we focused it. We realized, oh, we can do kids. We've got it. We just needed to know what was important to us. And suddenly, budgeting our life, basically, was really easy. But we're going to talk more about partnership with God next week. So homework assignment is 3 things. No one?
3 things you're passionate about.
3 things you're passionate about. This is on you. I'm not going to check you at the door. Tisa will. Yep. I'm going to pray. Father, my request, as we talk about passion and desire, it's very simple. It's so simple, God. I pray that you stir up inside of us desire, a passion for your name, and I can't inject that into people. I can't make people care about that, and we can't do that to other people, and we can't manipulate people. I would never want to manipulate others. So, Father, I pray for your Spirit to come. I pray that we would want your Spirit more and more. So, Holy Spirit, come. Draw us into intimacy with you. Because, God, it's only out of connection to you and out of a love for you, out of realizing what you have done for me. God, how you fill me every day, that my desire changes to want to follow you deeper and deeper and to let go of more and more things, to grab more and more of you. And so, Father, do that in me. Holy Spirit, come. Holy Spirit, come. Work on these things in us by the power of your Spirit as we cooperate with you in the workings of these things into our lives.
Looking out my window, feeling a crescendo, searching on a quiet sea. Sitting with the ones that I forever love, we're waiting on a flash of green. And even when the nights got cold, you've always held me close. You're the only rock that I could ever stand on. You're the only one for me. The sun goes up, the sun goes down. This whole world keeps spinning round. I'm here traveling down this long Bible by my bedside, sweating through a long night, wrestling with the hounds of shame. Trying to turn the hands back on a troubling past, every move I make's in vain. But even as a shifting wind, you are who you've always been. You're the only rock that I could ever stand on. Through it all you remain. Sun goes up, sun goes down, this whole world keeps spinning round. I'm here traveling down this long and winding road. Seasons come and seasons go, take me high, then leave me low. That I'm standing on the only rock I know. You're my cornerstone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No matter where I go, my cornerstone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No matter where I go, on Christ, the solid rock I'm standing. And all of the ground is sinking sand. On Christ, the solid rock I'm standing. All of the ground is sinking sand. Oh, on Christ, the solid rock I'm standing. You're the only one that I could build my life on. Through it all you remain. The sun goes up, the sun goes down, this whole world keeps spinning round. I'm here traveling down this long and winding road. Seasons come, seasons go, I've been high and I've been low, but I'm standing on the only rock I know. You're my cornerstone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No matter where I go, my cornerstone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No matter where I go, you are the only rock I stand. All of the ground is sinking sand. Oh, you are the only rock I stand. All of the ground is sinking sand. Oh, you are the only rock I stand on. God, I'm on my knees again. God, I'm begging, please again. I need you. Oh, I need you. Walking down these desert roads, water for my thirsty soul. I need you. Oh, I need you. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water on my skin.
Dead man walking, slave to sin. I want to know about being born again. I need you. Oh God, I need you. So take me to the riverside. Take me under, baptize. I need you. Oh God, I need you. Oh.
Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water
It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change.
Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound